Now this one will take a bit of explaining to do. I'd have to go back a bit and reminisce. 2 years ago I did a chat gig in the Mechanics Institute in Pontardaris. And Pontardaris, known to everyone as the Bont. And when I was there, it reminded me that it was the second band I'd ever played for, and the first big band called Dennis Dole. And Dennis Dole was not only the band leader, but he was also the manager of the United Welsh Bus Company in Gorsinan. So it was deja vu big time going back to the Bont. And so I thought, well, I'll write a story or poem, in this case a poem, so to speak, of the Bont, for the Bont. And here it is. And I may say, there it went down a bomb in the Bont. The Bont, by me, in 2008. To be born in Bont is a privilege. You're a cut above the rest. But Hendy, over the border there, oh, no wonder they're so depressed. I've travelled all around the world, there's nowhere else I want. I've marvelled at its 7 wonders, wow, yet the 8th is surely the Bont. The wars took their toll of Bont's young men, to their deaths they went unbowed. Their names are on the memorial, and no one did Bont more proud. But those men of Bont worked hard too, in tin plate and steel and coal, in Clayton and Graigmertha, in a furnace hell or a cold black hole. We remember them especially now, when those vandals today make us so sick. Bring back national service for them, 'cause it's home from home in the nick. But crime's not new around the Bont, 'cause I well remember when St. Tylo's was nicked by St. Fagans, but who the hell stole the dullest glen? So enough of crime, let's reminisce on roads without yellow lines, driving both ways in St. Tyler Street, no bloody wardens and no bloody fines. Your car was serviced in Walter's garage, the Co-op and cafes served hunger, Dr. Lloyd, the Bryn surgery, serviced bodies with spares from white ironmongers. Remember too those Saturday nights, the climax of a dancer's week, jiving here in the Institute Palace, smooching, kutching, cheek to cheek. It featured the Dennis Dole Band of saxes, trumpets, trombones, the driver drumming ecstatic passion, aided by youthful hormones. So here we are now, 2008, in the Bont, you love and belong. Fond memories abound in abundance, and you'll never be short of a song. For the pride of Bont, a male voice choir. They've taken over their lives, baritones competing with tenors, but losing to sopranos, their wives. They sing Calon Lan, Ar Heath and Os, till tonsils begin to congeal, from bottom G's to highest C's, for they must beat Dennis O'Neill. Then, followed by a pub crawl, just a mile through Bont, but prepare to drink like a fish in a fountain, then it's all downhill from there. To the king, the farmers, the wheat sheaf, the Gwyn, and whoa at the Black Horse. Then heading home with lame excuses, and you're heading for divorce. The strip clubs in Bont are famous, I joined them, oh boy, I know why. Welcomed in all except for one, I was thrown out of the WI. So how do I know so much of Bont? Well, as a baby, I was found in a bush there. I'm told my dad was an hell of a lad. Surely you remember old Flush? Whenever I think of the Bont, apart from it being such a wonderful venue with a great, great band, I can't help thinking that's one of the first places that Hedy saw me drumming. And she danced with everyone who asked her, and that was a lot of men who asked her to dance while I'm playing. So, naturally, the next item that follows is a story about Hedy. And it's called Redtribution. Come, dearik, vi sits onen du now. Her attractive Viennese English accent made me laugh inwardly. Outwardly, I smiled at her invitation to come sit on the River Danube. The river bank was far more appealing. It was 1947. We were both 19. She, Hedy, was a nurse and already a qualified chemist. I was, and still am, thank God, Derek of Swansea. And a soldier, a dunce, even though I'd learnt my trade as a cabinet maker and French polisher, I still felt outclassed by this talented beauty. I was stationed in this huge Viennese barracks and put in charge of the woodworking workshop and the two Austrian men, a father and son, who were both past masters at furniture making. I was amazed at their expertise when they made a sideboard that held secret drawers within secret drawers. They both became very good friends and mentors. Incidentally, the garage, the barracks garaged one of Hitler's cars. Some of our escapades in it must also be kept secret, but Adolf would have been turning over in his bunker. This was the international zone of Vienna, and while its citizens displayed an understanding tolerance of the occupying French, American, and British soldiers, the Red Army was feared, and I was soon to know why. These Russians had suffered more than anyone from Nazi atrocities, and for the last 2 years it had been for most of them retribution time to anyone who spoke German. The River Danube was not as I had imagined it, and certainly not as blue as Johann Strauss had so elegantly musically painted it. But there was I, sitting on its bank, in the sun, with a warm wind, carrying the sounds of chatter, laughter, and yells of delight from the distant big wheel on the Prater. The Prater was the fairground, where we actually saw the film The Third Man being made, with its haunting theme music played on a zither. Da 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 da. and so on. What had I done to deserve such happiness? I wasn't even the best-looking boy in my own house, yet here I am, escorting the most beautiful girl in Vienna, in the whole world. Why me? My daily gifts of naffy cream cakes and chocolate may have been a factor, but bribery was the last thing on my 19-year-old immature, virgin but virile mind, which is where it stayed for many years after, until suddenly I'm jolted out of that first love euphoric state by the yells of delight turning to screams of horror. All around us, as we saw a young girl's mutilated body in a white, blood-spattered dress floating towards us. I was shocked into a shaking silence, but Hedy spoke a long, silent prayer, then pulled me away and said, "Please God, send those Russians back to their homeland. Let us have a real peace." And I prayed with her. Even today I would hazard a guess that the tourist trade between Russia and Germany must be as buoyant as that between Palestine and Israel. Maybe some fences have been built, but they still resemble the Iron Curtain, and Hedy's prayer for a peaceful world has yet to be answered. Now, 63 years later, a riverbank remains a potent memory of love and lament, hormones and horror, and to Hedy it was the start of her peaceful life as my wife. Now, a lot less dramatic, but only confirming what I earlier said about that dunce. Taken from the Evening Post. It's very true, this. After 68 years, an unexploded German bomb has been discovered in Brynmill Park by a gardener who leaned too heavily and too long on his shovel on the rain-soaked bowling green. The greenkeeper saw the hole with the gardener still sleeping astride the bomb, and at his usual bowler-type pace he strode to his hut and phoned for assistance for the bomb and the gardener to be defused. The bomb squad eventually arrived from Belfast, studied the hole, now gardener free. His wife had pulled him out, saying his tea was getting cold, and it was nothing new that he'd been sleeping on the job, but never so long on something so ugly. Now, while extracting the bomb, an old school satchel appeared with the name Derek Morgan painted on it. With deft fingers, Mr. Bombman warily opened the satchel and withdrew its contents. A school leaving certificate, the headmaster's report, and a photograph of Derek Morgan. He later confessed that the photo was more revolting than any bomb he dealt with. The papers too were not for the squeamish, but having bribed permission from the obscene publication authorities, we publish in the faint hope that Derek Morgan is still of this earth, but looking like that as a youth, we shudder to think what he looks like now. The certificate. Brynmill School, Swansea. Our motto, Achtung mein Kampf. This is to confirm the eagerly anticipated departure from all our buildings of Derek Morgan. He arrived like a square peg in a round hole, but he leaves a fully rounded square. We predict Derek will go far, and to ensure this, we've had a whip round for his ticket. One way. The signatures on his teacher's reports are not so much tributes, but more of a petition for his exit. Signed, Mr. Eichmann, headmaster. The report. Bryn Mill School, January 29th, 1942. Teacher's report to Derek Morgan, of no fixed abode, hopefully. History. When I asked him, what did the people do in the Ottoman Empire, he replied, they just put their feet up, sir. Geography. Derek said he would travel the world, yet still uses an A to Z to find this school. English. On every aspect, he seemed to be completely in the dark. I suggested he go to night school. Biology. When questioned about the alimentary canal, he replied it's very, very deep and somewhere near Birmingham. Music. The weak-bladdered found his singing most moving. Maths. Derek could only count to 21 if he was naked. Physical education. He stood apart at PE and was voted Physical Jerk of the Year. Religion. Derek converted us all. We did not believe in hell till he came upon us. Poetry. His poems, like the peace of God, past all understanding. The headmaster's epilogue. The Labour Exchange has been warned of his imminent breakout from us and break into them. To ease their shudders, I have made a few suggestions as to occupations most suitable for Derek, even though they are extremely limited. 1. Fresh shrapnel collector. 2. A model for family planning on their Use Contraception or Else campaign. 3. A window cleaner for brown envelopes. Yes, Derek Morgan exuded an air of such failure it was infectious to pupils and staff. I am therefore thrilled to confirm he has been well and truly certified. A. Eichmann, Headmaster, Bryn Mill School. And if you thought that was rather stupid, this one's called Mog's Mob. Once upon a time, as the old bedtime story goes, a monster of a man called Moggs gathered around him a mob of even worse monsters who became known as Mog's Mob. They terrorized Swansea with the foulest of deeds, so much so even the Nazis sent fan letters and presented Moggs with the Iron Cross, with spikes and a barbed wire beret, which went to his head, and he became even more violent and bloody. But wouldn't you, with a barbed wire beret? He was never a normal human being. In fact, he grew up so fast he didn't have time to be a delinquent. He made up for it, though, by becoming a creepy, crawly, violent, sadistic, and uglier than John Watts and Di Davis put together. But surely no one would be stupid enough to put them together anyway. Except in Kilvey Writers' Circle. Nothing was safe from Moggs, your cat, your dog, even your little pet budgie. He'd eat anything. His favourite drink was hemoglobin, still warm, shaken but not stirred, with a hint of rabbit's foot for luck, though it didn't do much good for the rabbit, did it? Not content with being a lone maniac, he joined a group of like-minded idiots who on the surface masqueraded as an innocent group of writers. This didn't fool anyone, especially other writers, for they too were a body of bodies devoted to terror. Their motto was, "It's nothing personal, we hate everyone." The mastermind of this mishmash was the heinous Art Colburn, who one historic day murdered every worker in the British Gas and Electric Company. Now he, and he alone, was the holder of unlimited power. "Wow," he said to himself. He said a lot to himself. He could leave every electric gadget on all day without fear of a bill. He left the gas on full until one fateful day when someone asked him for a light. Then there was his sidekick Gaynor, the insania. She used to be a nun, but was sacked for having such filthy habits. And Rob, the slasher, if he couldn't do it in your presence, he'd go outside and do it in private. Then Di the Death, the hangman, he hung on to every word until that final stroke of his secret weapon and the sharpest of expressions. Another man to benefit from that unlimited power was John Kilowatts, a real shocker he was. Then there was Jane, who tried to be anonymous, but when you go wandering up hills in the dead of night, dressed in camouflage pyjamas and talking to trees, you're asking for it, and she got it from an Evening Post reporter, an ex-Evening Post reporter. Not forgetting that murderous double act, Rough and Ready, Maggie the Rough and Reenie Ever Ready. They were the brains behind the mob, way, way behind. Now this story will be continued. It will become more sadistic, more depraved, more bloodthirsty when I tell you the full, unexpurgated version of Moggs' Mob. Ha 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 ha.
Daddy, Daddy.
Yes, my lovely little girl.
Will you tell me another bedtime story like that, please, again tomorrow, Daddy?
Yes, darling. Right. Now, if you think that was a bit mad, this one's called Pebble Bashed. It's 1950. I'm 22 in years, 32 in waist and inside leg, and a 14-inch collar and 42-inch chest, rippling muscles on muscles. Now, if this doesn't turn you on, just read on. For there's far worse to come. I was as statuesque as Paul Robeson. My body made Cassius Clay envious. I danced like Sammy Davis Jr. I spoke like Martin Luther King, and I sang like Louis Armstrong. True? Oh yes, my friends, for in 1950 I was black. Black as lava bread, but tastier. So stand aghast and croak, "What the hell happened, Derek?" A stone fell on my head, and shock can change everything. I was within an inch of losing my life, and 6 inches of needing a sex change. I asked for that stone to be brought to my hospital bed to see what it had done to me, but the stone wasn't in too good a nick, for it had broken in half. And in the dead of night, from inside my hospital locker, I heard those 2 half-stones talk to each other. No, I'm not stone deaf. "We can't live apart. We've been together since time began. Before that even. Surely goodness and mercy will overcome Mr. Morgan." They've read my name on the headboard. "And he will make us whole again, even though superglue has not been invented yet." Coming out of my coma, I am hastily dispatched home with my Rolling Stones, and I assured them that they would be in safe hands, though sabotaged head, for I couldn't hold a grudge against them, because in 10 years' time there'll be more Rolling Stones damaging far more heads. So feeling sorry for them, I said, "Okay, don't worry. You will have a welcome in my home and live together safely with thousands of your friends, kept warm and clean forever. Would you like that?"
"Oh, yes, yes, please. Thank you so much, Derek."
They were becoming more familiar now, having read my name on the get well card, the only get well card, from my bank manager, with a note asking if I still wanted to be in the black. It's unusual for a bank manager to have a sense of humour. Well, it is these days. Luckily for my Stone Age friends, I was making a large fireplace at the time, completely of sea stones, so I gently, surgically, reverently put them together again in the warmth of that hearth, where they still happily reside, thanks to my motto, "Leave no stone unturned." Now that all took place 59 years ago, and in the dead of night, as they all cool down, I hear them chatting to each other, as only contented stones can. "Oh, what a wonderful life we all have now, thanks to Derek. They've been the best years since we were stony broke, and we've given him a lot of pleasure and comfort through terrific and tragic times, so we'll stick by him to the bitter or sweet end, and pray that we can stay together forever, happy in the knowledge that it was all due to Derek when in 1950 a stone fell on his black head. But he's all white now." Blessed or cursed with a photographic memory, rather like flash photography. In fact, it can detract from what's really in focus. Sometimes I'm accused of having a memory like a sieve, when I forget names, faces, dates, places. But a sieve will not let through those large lumps of memory, and the longer you live, the more good, bad, and ugly lumps of memory you encounter. The good, I can walk under a ladder and see the sun come out. I break my shaving mirror, yet my face is bloodless. Thank God I'm not superstitious. Touch wood. The bad, well, I'm in too good a mood to remember them for a while. The ugly? The ugly we can't avoid, whatever mood we're in. The past, present, and sadly predictable, the future. We're bombarded with the breaking news syndrome, another war, multi-murders, riots, abduction, and famine, all thrown at us by a media determined to outdo and outsink one another. Even their apologies are cynical circulation seekers. Yes, we are all surrounded by the ugly, often on our doorstep, to people we know and love. Heartbreaking luck in health or bereavement, which in turn affects us so deeply. It's the penalty of being human, I suppose, for we are all given that sense of sympathy and understanding, yet some people can be strong or weak enough to turn it down, or, better still for them, completely off, until. To put my 82 years of memories to paper would rival War and Peace, and, of course, would include both of those episodes, with a hell of a lot more between. Suffice to say for now, the here and now is full of goodness, thanks to a wonderful family and a circle of ever-expanding friends. They should try dieting. For who was it that wrote, walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone? Well, if that's all you've got in your heart, you deserve to walk alone. Yes, I could write a book on my memories, so I'll start post-haste. Now, if only I can remember where I put my pen. Oh well, back to therapy. A couple of years ago, we were given a subject in the writers group by our tutor, the ubiquitous Robert King, called Rock. Write about rock, he said. This is my contribution. It's called Rock Around His Clock. In case you misheard me, rock around his clock. Yes, you know they're zillions of years old. Yes, you know they come in all shapes and sizes. Yes, you know they're bloody hard, but it is I, and I alone, who knows who the king of rock was. No, not Elvis, you fools, but Boggs the Magnificent. Yes, he was primitive. Yes, he's now fossilized, yet he was ahead of his time. So how do I know of Boggs the Magnificent? Well, by pure chance, I happened to be walking through Stonehenge a fortnight ago when I relived my previous visit there some 50 years before. I was shocked to find it hadn't changed one iota. So in my frustration, I pushed one of those monumental pillars over. Yes, it was a moment of weakness. But Eureka! For there, chiselled into its base, was the very first edition of the Stonehenge Gazette. Priced at 1 groat, it seemed to be good value, but difficult to carry and impossible to fold. Ignoring the page 3 pin-up of Queen Boadicea astride a twin-humped camel, there again it could have been a horse, I regained my composure and studied the front page, which carried a world exclusive, and the story of Boggs the Magnificent is revealed in all its wonder. It started with the discovery of 2 bodies on a mountain, and 9 months later a little pebble was born, and he was called Boggs. His father was a misshapen, hard old man called Boulder. His mother, once a shapely, smooth stone, became so ground down by her boulder, she quietly rolled off him one night and bounced naked down the crags. Hitting rock bottom, she formed a protest group for abused pebbles, who to this day will go to the wall for their beliefs. Surely you've heard of the Pebble Dashers. Losing his mum was a crushing too far for young Boggs, and when he was old enough, about 3 actually, he set off around the world saying, "Rocks had rights, but they had been ignored and walked all over." Eventually his name became synonymous with the hard stuff, rocks, stones, granite, and in memory of his father, boulders. It's thanks to Boggs that the Egyptians built the pyramids, the Indians, the Taj Mahal, and the Welsh, that masterpiece, a Bonnymine Community Centre, even without planning permission. After that, the world honoured him with the title Boggs the Magnificent, and today, just like those sculptured faces of American presidents in the rocks of Mount Rushmore, so Boggs the Magnificent face was stuffed and pushed into Mount Kilvey, Wales, where it permanently glares over Swansea City. Now the world's tourists come to stare in awe at Boggs' face and listen tearfully to him sing his hymn from somewhere in heaven's great rockery. Ages cleft for me, I'm in Kilvey, view for free, as I slumber in its bedrock, locked in a rock, around my clock.